Hi everyone, welcome to Simply Amazing Life by Kaushiki. And today we are making this simple olive whole wheat bread. And for this we need yeast and some brown sugar, a little bit of lukewarm water. The water should be hot enough so that you can test it by dipping your finger or maybe at the back of your hand, whatever it helps. So this is my daughter who has been helping me to make this dough, and since their schooling is from home, so I had to keep her engaged in some kind of the activity. And it is very easy bread to make. She's just 7.5 and she has done some really fantastic work in making this bread. Now I have added the water to the yeast and sugar, and I'll cover it with a lid or a moist towel and keep it aside in any warm spot for it to ferment. Now I'm getting the dry mix ready. So I'm using whole wheat flour and I'm adding just 1/4 amount of maida to that, or all-purpose flour. Then I'm adding black pepper, oregano, some mixed herbs, salt, and I'm using pink salt. You can use any salt of your choice. Just I feel that pink salt add a very different texture to the entire bread. This bread is going to be very moist but a little dense because we are not doing excessive kneading. It's a very quick and easy bread to have in your fridge, which is really healthy. And our dry mixture is ready. And if we see, then our yeast should be ready by now, and it has foamed up really nicely. To this I'm adding milk. Now milk is also slightly at the room temperature, on a warmer side, not on a cold side. We don't want to kill the yeast, either making the milk really hot or cold. So just mixing everything together with the help of a spatula. And now I'll add all the dry ingredients batch by batch, and I want to mix it really nicely. As you have noticed that I have not added any oil or butter right now, because I'll be using it while I'm kneading, because it's a very sticky dough, and it is extremely easy to knead this dough. It does not require a lot of muscle or anything per se, so can be done by anyone, absolutely anyone. As you can see, it's a very sticky batter, and I have kept the amount of flour, almost half a cup of flour. I have kept it aside, and I'll be incorporating while I am kneading the dough. The oil and half a cup of flour will be added while kneading the dough. And I'm using 2 tablespoons of flour batch by batch. I don't want to use too much flour, and I'm going to use my knuckles to knead the dough, not banging or too much of throwing the batter on the surface. Nothing excessive. It's a pretty rustic bread. Now many of you have asked me that I knead my bread on the counter. How do I keep it clean? How do I make sure that the counter is clean? So before I start making any bread, first thing I do is clean my counter absolutely with plain warm water, and then I start applying apple cider vinegar on my entire counter. Once the apple cider vinegar is dried out, again I wipe it with water, and then I add a coat of olive oil to my counter. Just few drops, and this totally sanitizes my counter. Here I'm using a cake scraper to scrape the dough from the counter. You can use a spoon or a knife. As you can see, it's a very, very sticky dough. You must not even be thinking that it will ever come in a dough form, but you will see I have not deleted it. Everything is on the camera, that you will see everything you will come together. I'm adding oil batch by batch, and slowly I'll be adding the flour in the dough. It is sticky initially, and it hardly took me from 2 minutes to 5 minutes of kneading, not more than that. And based on how fast or how quick you want to knead, and what is the moisture and the temperature around which you're doing. So suppose it would have been a colder temperature, it would have taken me a little less time, since it's still very warm here in Gurgaon. So it took me around 5 minutes to do that. So the moisture was not really, it was not ready to dry out. As you can see, it started forming. I'm just adding a bit of flour to this. A little bit of oil, a little bit of flour. That's all that I'm doing. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil just because I'm making a olive bread. So I like the flavor of extra virgin olive oil, but you can always use whatever oil you like. But I will recommend that you use good quality oil, and it really adds a very good aroma to your bread. And moreover, the bread really stays fresh because we are not using any kind of preservative for this bread. And as far as this bread is concerned, it is absolutely healthy. The flour that I'm using is multigrain flour, and that is why it has a lot of millets and pulses mixed in this flour. So this will be a little dense bread, but it is full of nutrition. So without any hesitation, you can give this bread to your kids. And I'm specially making this bread for my daughter. As you can see, the dough has come in the shape, and it took around now it's her hands that you see on the screen. She was extremely excited to do everything on her own because she wanted to make her own bread. So now we just drizzled good amount of oil and let it ferment, and it has doubled in size, and it is very nice and poofy. And we'll just turn it on the counter, and I'm just taking a simple cake tin, square cake tin. You can just simply dump everything in the cake tin without doing anything, absolutely anything. You just add some olives on top, but my daughter wanted some cheese and olives inside as well. So she is extremely fond of cheese. As you can see, she's super excited to tear it and put it in the bread. So yeah, we are doing that. But you can just throw this bread in your bread maker or a bread container and go ahead and do it. You can also add some cut onions to this, or capsicum, maybe some sun-dried tomatoes also will go really well. You don't have to drain the oil from the sun-dried tomatoes. You can just simply mix instead of the oil that we have incorporated, you can use that oil. As you will see in the video further, I'll go and drizzle some olive oil on top just to bring that olive flavor in the bread. You can totally skip this part. Since I was making it for my daughter, I was not very conscious of amount of oil that I was using. And just tapping it from all sides, sealing the edges and pinching all the edges properly, because I have added a bit of liquid item, like I have added pickled olives and cheese in it. So I made sure that everything is sealed, and still the dough is pretty moist. If you see this dough is not dry absolutely. And just making some dents. Sorry, the video went a little out of focus. Um, just adding some of the olives, leftover olives. My daughter is just crazy for olives and cheese, and she she just hogs on this bread like anything. I don't even have to tell her anything, absolutely. So I'm just drizzling some olive oil on top as well. You can totally skip this drizzling of olive oil, and I'll just simply bake this in the oven. We'll add some seasoning. I'm using oregano and some mixed herbs just to add a bit of flavor to the bread, and I'm just covering it with a moist kitchen towel and leaving it for just 15-20 minutes more. And as you can see, it has filled the container completely, and it is ready to go inside the oven at 180 degrees C for 20 minutes. And it just bakes really beautifully, and you can go ahead, take it out from the container and bake it for another 15-20 minutes. I didn't want it to make the bread very crispy. My daughter doesn't like it, but I will recommend that you go ahead and bake it, taking it out of the tin and baking it for another 10 minutes at 160 degrees Celsius. As you can see the cheese and olives inside, and it is a super moist bread. It's very moist bread. In the description box below, I have given you a detailed recipe, all the measurements and everything. And if you try this recipe, then please do click pictures and tag me on Instagram or Pinterest. I am there on Facebook. Do like us and subscribe to our channel.